All right, everyone. So the PG era is officially dead, at least according to the Wrestling Observer. So we're reading from WrestleOps, citing the Wrestling Observer. The Rock's work during the build to WrestleMania XL and Heyman's Hall of Fame speech are considered the official end of the PG era in WWE. Not to say the TV shows will be changing as the decision hasn't been made, but is something talked about as WWE nears the start of the Netflix deal. And I think this is a pretty kind of important story. Anybody who loves wrestling, especially if you're, old enough to remember it, knows what the Attitude Era was like, and even like the Ruthless Aggression Era, right? Everybody remembers the before PG era, right, where wrestling was kind of on the break. It was on like the cutting edge of TV, a lot of controversy, a lot of other stuff, and then as they progressed and they wanted to be kind of get bigger deals and bigger ad sales, whatever it is, right, to be more mainstream, the PG era came, and I think a lot of people tuned out during that time. Now, remember, wrestling got its kind of start when you're talking Hogan, and we're talking like wrestling in terms of WWE becoming a behemoth that it is, not way back in the territories and all that. But when you have Hogan wrestling and all those guys back in the day, it was more PG then too, right? Before the Attitude Era, it was very like it was like a cartoon. It was very PG. It was very buttoned up, not on the cutting edge. So it's not like the PG era came out of nowhere, right? It had previously existed, and it existed after the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. And now going forward, I think this is a pretty good opportunity to kind of mix the two together. Meaning, just because the Attitude Era was so great, and just because the end, and kind of who knows how long it actually goes, because part of the Ruthless Aggression Era was pretty cool. But whatever that time, you could still have a lot of that greatness and a lot of the real storylines and the real emotion and people speaking like real people and it not being like a cartoon. And you could also have it not be constantly something that's over the top. And I think if you listen to a lot of people talk at the end of the Attitude Era and into the Ruthless Aggression Era, as the Ruthless Aggression Era goes on, a lot of people kind of agree that during that time, part of the reason wrestling lost its, I don't want to say like it became less popular, but part of the reason that the product has been viewed as tanking during that time is because they were trying too hard to be edgy, right? So you're doing all of this, and you could, go watch any of the documentaries they've made on these eras, and they talk about that. They said some of the stuff we did was just edgy to be edgy, and it wasn't necessarily like actually entertaining, and people actually were like, I don't know if I actually like that. So now wrestling is at a point where you could kind of get rid of the PG stuff, right? It doesn't have to be PG, but you could use kind of this that more edgy and the more Attitude Era esque stuff at the correct times, and you can kind of have a program that is for anybody who wants it, right? So you have somebody who, maybe The Rock is going to say some mean words and there's going to be some blood and guys jumping off stuff, but, it's not going to be every night something where people are like, we have to boycott this thing because it's, just so over the top. And I think they could find a good mix because the Attitude Era, it was by far, at least, in my opinion, the best time in wrestling. I think it needed to be. I think the storylines were what drove it. And some even like, people say, well, it was great because they were doing the edge. I don't know about that. Like the storylines were just really awesome, right? The battle between Vince McMahon and Stone Cold, there was a lot of naughty words being thrown around, but there's nothing crazy about naughty words. I know it's that wouldn't drive advertisers away if that was what the case is for them going forward. So I think they could do both, and I think it will be perfect, and they can continue to kind of build a roster that fits that. And you get the real storylines are the part that made it so great, right? Like even the Undertaker, it's like one of my favorite times for the Undertaker, and I've basically loved every from when he first started to when the beginning of the Attitude Era to the Ministry of Darkness to whatever, keep going, American Badass. I liked all those stages, but one of my favorite ones was the Ministry of Darkness. I don't know if he could have done that, his whole career, but that was just so real, right? It was such you were just sitting there going, man, this guy is like evil. This is getting crazy, and he was over. in some ways as the Ministry of Darkness. When the corporate ministry hit, I think he became a little less over and he became more of a heel. But the Undertaker was like in some ways over during that time. So I don't know. I'm excited about this. The PG era may officially be dead, but we will see what happens. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next.